Hello guys, my name is Will Ngugi, and in this video I'm going to show you how to create a simple blood donation application with Flutter and Firebase, and also I'm going to use Riverpod for state management. Okay, so we are going first to start with a small splash screen, and then we are going to create this login page, and also users can register as recipients and they can also register as donors. So if the users already have an account, they can log into the account. So I'm going to log in as a recipient. So once I'm logged in, the application loads all the donors in the application, and we can have this navigation drawer over here. All right, so one thing that we can do is that first, we can use these menus and this drawer to filter on the donors of the different blood groups. All right, so for example, if I tap on A positive, right now we do not have any donors that are of blood group A positive, but we can filter through to see the different donors with the different blood groups. Also, we can filter to get the donors that have the same blood group as us, for example. And as you can see here, this donor is of blood group O positive. And if I go to my account, as this is my account, and I have a blood group of O positive. Okay, so another thing that we can do is to email these individuals. And the way that we're going to do is that we are going to click on email. And when we tap on this email, we are going to send an email to this donor directly to their email account, directly from this application. So you're not going to open Gmail app. We are just going to click on this button and we are going to automatically send an email right from this application. All right, and I can do that by tapping on this email button. So with that, the email has been sent successfully. If I open Gmail, as you can see here, I have received an email that I have just sent from the application. As you can see, it's a blood donation request with the details of the person that have sent that particular email. So finally, the last thing that we can do is go to open notifications. We get this notification that we have requested blood donation from this particular donor on February 4th of 2025. So this is the date of today. Okay, so basically that is the application that we're going to create. It's quite a simple application, but it's an application that is going to teach us quite a lot. So let's get started. So if you want to contact me on WhatsApp or any other social media platforms, you can find all the details in the description box below. So the first thing that we need to do is to go to the folder that we want to create the project. I'm going to open the command prompt there. All right. So, and in here, now I'm going to create the project that I want to create. So you just use the command flutter create. All right. And that is going to create the project that we want. So as you can see here, the project has been created. So I'm going to open my project in Android Studio, but feel free to use VS Code as well. So the first thing that I want to do is to go to settings. So on actions on save, I'm going to check this reformat code and apply. All right, so we always start with the main.dat. So this is the main.dat, which I'm going to clear out. So firstly, we are going to change the title from Flutter demo to blood donation. We're also going to change a few things. First of all, let us change the seed color. The seed color that we are going to use is color 0xFF680C07. We're also going to change the app bar theme. So app bar theme dot copy with, and the color. So we are going to have a centralized place where we are going to create our app colors and the styling that we are going to use for our text. We are going to have a center title of true. So we want to ensure that all our titles are centered, and we are going to have to set the icon theme. So icon theme data dot copy with. So we are going to set the color to colors.white. And another thing that we can do is to remove the debug show checked mode banner like that. So we are going to use Go Router for navigation in this application. All right, so to do that, we are going to install the Go Router package. Just install packages that I need for this project. We now need to add one more parameter to the build method, which is widget_ref, which is conventionally named ref, like that. And then now we are going to use this ref. Now we are going to use this ref to listen to providers that we are going to create in this application. But before that, since we are using Riverpod, we have to encapsulate this my app inside a provider scope. So we are going to change to wrap it with a widget, which is provider scope, like that. And we are going to add the const like that. So let us create another package called routes, which are going to define all the routes of this application, and then we can convert this application, because now this it's going to turn from material app to material out.router, and then you are going to have a router config here, and with that we are going to listen to the current route with the Riverpod, and therefore we are not going to require this anymore, but you're going to get back to it and solve this error. So I'm going to create another folder inside the lib, which I'm going to call routes, and inside these routes I'm going to create a file called routes, like that. So the first thing that I need to do in these routes is to define the different routes that I'm going to have. So, and I'm going to put them all in an enum. So I'm going to call this enum app routes. So these are the different routes that you are going to have in this application. Let us now use GoRouter to create the different routes. And since we're going to use Riverpod, we are going to create it like this. So we are going to say GoRouter. So this is possible because, as you can see, the package GoRouter has been imported here. I'm just going to call this GoRouter, GoRouter ref. And inside of this, now we are going to return the different routes. So we are going to return GoRouter. And then here we are going to have the different routes. Okay, so the first route that you are going to have is a splash. So go route. So the path is /splash, like that. The name is approutes.splash.name, like that. And we are going to have a builder. So the builder, first of all, takes the context and also takes the state, and then it returns. So we are going to return the splash screen. So it's going to be a const at the end, the splash screen that we are going to create. So that is how we define a route, and we are going to define more routes in future. So let us create this splash screen. Let me create a new folder inside this lib, and I'm going to call it splash, like that. And inside of it, I'm going to create now the splash screen. So this is our splash screen, and this splash screen is going to be a simple stateful widget, and I'm going to call it splash screen. So to eliminate the errors, so I'm import material.dat, like that. So in the state class, we are going to extend a mixin, so with single ticker provider state mixin. And inside here, we are now going to create the variables that we are going to use to create our animation. First, we are going to create a controller called animation controller, and we are going to call it a controller. We are going to create animation. It's a generic type offset. So we are going to animate the logo and some text. So this we are going to call it a logo controller, and we are going to create yet another animation for the text, okay, or the title of the application. And this I'm going to call it text controller. Okay, so we are going to override the init state to initialize our variables here. So our controller equals to animation controller. Okay, so vsync, you pass this, and this is possible because we have extended this class, the single ticker provider state mixin, that mixin. After the vsync, we specify a duration. So duration, you can have a duration of 2 seconds, 2, like that. And with that, we can have a semicolon at the end. So let me move this super init state at the top here. No, let me name this a logo animation. Logo animation. And I'm going to name this a text animation, like that. Logo animation. We are going to set it to a twin, equals to twin offset. So begin, I want us to begin at 0 minus 1. So by this means that it's going to move from top to bottom, okay, and it's going to end at offset, so 0 0. So this means that it's going to move from bottom to the dead center of the screen, okay. And then we are going to animate it, so .animate. So the kind of animation that we are going to set here is curved animation. We are going to add curved animation, and the parent is a controller, and we already have a controller. We are going to set it there, and the curve, we are going to use curves dot. For this case, I'm going to just use is in out. So that is the logo animation, but we now need to work on the text animation. We are going to set it similar to this one. So I'm just going to copy that and paste it down here, but I'm going to change this to text animation. So for the text, I want it to begin from left side. So you are going to start from -1 to 0, okay, and it's going to end at the center of the screen, okay. and we are also going to set the same parent and the same curves. Okay, so the next thing that we need to do is to now set the controller and say controller.forward to play our animation that we want to play here. All right, so once our animation is over, what we want to do is now to navigate to the next screen, and we can do that. So future.delayed. So we are going to pass a const duration here, and we are going to set the seconds to 3, like that. We now specify the route that we want to navigate to. So, and the route that we want to navigate to is the app routes.main.name. So another thing that we need to do now is to override the dispose method. And what we need to do here is now we need to dispose our controller when it's no longer on use. So controller.dispose, like that. So now inside our build method, we are going now to create the logo and also the text that we want to animate. We are going to return a scaffold, and we are going to set the background color. So the background color that you're going to set here is the same that I set inside here. So I'm just going to copy this, pass it there, okay? And inside the body, we are going to have a center with the child, and the child is going to be a column. So the first child is going to be slide transition. So the position that we are going to set is the logo animation, and the child is now the logo itself. So for that, I'm going to create another folder here, which I'm going to call assets. And I'm going to copy the logo. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to paste it inside here. And that is what I'm going to pass here as the child. So the child is going to be an image asset. So image.asset. So it's assets/logo.png. And I'm going to give it a width of 150. Okay, of course, we know for that to work, I need to go to pubspec.yaml file. And I'm going to go down here to assets, and I'm going to uncomment those. And I need everything in the assets. So I'm just going to say assets/. And with that, we are going to have access to our logo. So I'm going to run pub-get to ensure that we get all the latest dependencies. Okay, so with that, we are going to have our logo. So after the slide transition, I'm going to add a sized box with a height of 20. And then I'm going to add yet another slide transition. But this time, this one is going to be for the text. So the position here is going to be text animation. So the child is going to be a text. So the text is going to read blood donation app, like that. And we are going to style it. We are going to style it a little bit later. Let me just add yet another slide transition. And here we are going to add another text that says donate and save lives, something like that. Inside the column, we can add the main axis alignment of center and maybe a cross axis alignment of center as well. So with that, we can go back to routes. And now here we are going to import the screen like that. Okay, to solve this error, we are going to run the build runner. But before that, let me add some few configurations in the Go routes. So inside this Go router, we can set the initial location. So the initial location is going to be splash. So we want the splash to be the first screen that is loaded once the application starts. Okay. So I want us to show the locations inside the logs. So we are going to set this to true. So let me create the main screen so that once the splash screen loads, we can navigate to the main screen. And to do that, I'm just going to copy this route here. Okay. And I'm going to paste it here. All right. So this is going to be /main, and the route is going to be approach.main.name. And here we want to return the main screen. So main screen. Okay, so I'm going to quickly create the main screen. Okay, so for that, I'm going to create another folder here called features. And inside of these features, we are going to have several features in this application. For example, we are going to have authentication, and we are going to have some other features. But another feature that we're going to have or to add is user management. So inside of this user management is where we are going to create our main screen. It's important to arrange your folders or your files in a way that if other people were to work on your application, they can be able to know which file is where. So presentation. So presentation are the screens and also the widgets that you see. You can create a presentation, and you can also create another folder called data, and we can create another folder called domain. So domain is going to be like the models of the application. Okay, and so now inside this presentation we can have a folder called screens. We can also have a small folder called widgets. So presentation / widgets, like that, and maybe something we call controllers. But when we get to that, I'm going to show you why we created all these folders. So the main screen is going to be inside of these screens. So I'm going to create a new file, which I'm going to call main screen, like that. So, and this main screen is going to be a consumer widget, and we are able to do this again because we added Flutter Riverpod. So to solve these other errors, I'm going to import material.dat file, the material.dat. For simplicity, for now, I'm just going to return a scaffold with an app bar which has a title, of text. I'm just going to call it main screen. So again, we can go back to the routes, and I'm going to import this to this main screen. So we are going to add this Riverpod annotation, and we are going to add one line here called path. So path go router. So paths routes.g.dat. So with that, we are going to run the build runner, and it's going to create the necessary file to resolve this error. So open the terminal. The command that we are going to run is this. So run build runner build -- delete conflicting outputs. So we are going to run this command, and with that, it's going to create the necessary file to resolve this error that you see here. And as you can see, with that, we no longer have that error, and we have this file here that has been created with the provider that we need. Okay, so with that, let me go to our main.dat file, and inside here, our property that we are going to set, which is router config. And now this, we are going to set to ref.watch, and we want to set to go router provider. So this provider has been created automatically when you run the build runner. So the thing that you need to do first is to try and run this application to ensure that everything is working correctly. So I'm just going to open my emulator. I'm going to use the emulator for this application, which I'm going to start. So once my emulator is started, I'm just going to run it here. Running it gave me an error. So it's something to do with the minimum SDK version. So to solve that, I can just open Android here, open app, and I'm going to open build.gradle. And inside here, minimum SDK, I'm just going to set this to 23. I forgot about that. Run it again. So now, after running the application, we should have our animation and then navigate to the main screen. As I said before, we're going to have a centralized place for all our styles. And for that, I'm going to create a folder inside the lib, which I'm going to call utils. And inside here, I'm going to create a new file, which I'm going to call appstyles. So I'm going to create class appstyles, and I'm going to define some styles that I'm going to use in the application. So let me try and import the Google Fonts because I'm going to use it here. And remember, Google Fonts was one of the packages that we installed inside the pubspec.yaml file. So I'm going to add Google Fonts here. Okay. This is going to be Google Fonts dot. So the font that I'm going to use in this app is the Lobster 2. So font size. So the font size, I'm going to use a proportionate font size. And for that, we are going to try and fetch the device dimensions of the device that you are going to run this application on. And for that, I think it will be good to create yet another file and get those kinds of dimensions. So it's a class size config. So that is going to get us the proportionate height and the proportionate width. All right. So with that, we can go back to our app styles. And now here the font size, I can use size config dot get proportionate height. And I'm going to set it to 20. I'm going to give it a color of colors.white. And I'm gonna give it a font weight of font weight.bold. So I'm going to copy this again, and I'm going to create for the title. So it's going to be title textile. We are going to create now a variable called main color, which I'm going to pass to the color that we have been using. So I'm going to take this color and I'm going to paste it here instead, like that. Okay, now with that, I can go to the main.dat file, and here for the said color, I can say app styles dot main color. Okay, again here I can say app styles dot main color, like that. We can go to the splash screen. So here now we can set the styles for this text. So here, so style is going to be app styles dot title textile, and this one I'm going to set the style to app style. Let me remove the const keyword. So this is going to be, so for this is going to be app styles dot normal textile. Also here for the background color, I can change it to app styles dot main color, like that. Okay, now that we have finished working on the splash screen and we have seen that it is working as intended, we cannot try to go and work on other parts of the application. Let us first work on signing and registration. Okay, so for that, we are going to start working on the authentication part of the application. So I'm going to go to features and I'm going to create a new folder. Name it presentation. I'm going to create 3 folders here. The other one is I'm going to call data. And the other one I'm going to call domain. So in the presentation, I'm going to have screens and I'm going to have something called controller. Okay, so inside the screen, we are going to start with the sign-in screen. So our sign-in screen is going to be a consumer stateful widget called sign-in screen. And we are going to import Riverpod, and I'm also going to import material.dat file, like that. So inside the sign-in screen, we are going to collect the email and the password, and also going to have the button for login. And then you're going to have 2 buttons, one to direct the user to register as a donor, and the other for user to go and register as a recipient. So for that, here we are going to return a column, okay, which has children that we are going to create. So the first child is an image asset, and its assets /logo.png. We are going to give it a height of size config .get proportionate height of 100. We are going to give it a width of size config .get proportionate width of 102, and I'm going to give it a fit of box fit .cover. After that image, we are going to create a text which says sign in to your account, and I'm going to have a style of app styles title textile, and I'm going to change the color. So I'm going to use copy width and set the color to colors.black, like that. So after that, we are going to create a sized box which has a height of size config .get proportionate height, and I'm going to give it a height of 25. And then now, after that, I want us to create now the text fields that we are now going to use to now input email and also the password. So for that, I'm going to create a new folder, which I'm going to call common widgets. This folder is going to be inside of the lib folder, common widgets. Okay, so inside here, I'm going to create a common text field. And the common text field is going to be a stateless widget called common text field. So let me import material.dat like that. So here, I'm going to add those like that. And here we are going to return a text form field. So the first property that we are going to set is the text input type. We're also going to we are going to set the controller of app styles .normal text styles .copy width colors.black. We are going to set the decoration to input decoration, int text of hint text, int style of app styles .normal text style .copy width colors.black. We're going to set the border of outline input border, set the border radius of border radius .circular, and give that there a border side of const border side. We set the color to colors.black and give a width of 1.0. Okay, I'm going to copy this and I'm gonna paste it again here. This is going to be enabled border, which will have the same properties, and I'm going to copy it once again. This time is focused border, which will have the same properties. And finally, I'm going to set the content padding to edge insets .symmetric and set the horizontal margin to 10.0. And I'm going to add a const right here. Okay, so that concludes our common text field. So we can go back to the sign-in screen. So inside the sign-in screen now, here we can create the common text field like that. Set the hint text as enter email. The input type is going to be text input type .email address. And the controller, we are going to create the controller right now. So we are going to come here to the state class, and I'm going to create the email editing controller, which is a text editing controller. And where we are here, we are also going to create the password controller. So let me just call this email controller and password controller, which is also a text editing controller, which will need to be disposed. So we need to dispose the email controller, and we also need to dispose the password controller. Okay, so that they can stop consuming the app resources when they are no longer in use. So for the email controller here, I'm going to pass the email controller like that. So after that, we can have a text box. I'm going to paste down here. And this I'm going to give it at height of 10. And we now need to create yet another common text field, this time for the password. So this is going to be enter password. We can just set this to text, and we are going to set this to password controller. We can have yet another text field, another sized box for some space. And this time we are going to create a button. again, this button, you are going to use it in multiple places. So I suggest we create it the same way we created this common text field. So inside the common widgets, I want us to create the common button. So I'm going to add a file which I'm going to call common button. So the common button is a stateless widget, and I'm going to import material.dat final void callback, which I'm going to call on tap. We're going to have the string title, and we're also going to have the bool is loading, so that we can do something when this button has been tapped and we need to perform some operations. Okay, so let me add those parameters. All right, so this is going to return an inkwell with an on tap. We pass our on tap there, and the child is now the container. It has an alignment of alignment.center. We're going to give it a size of a height of size config dot get proportionate height of 50. A width, we are going to give it the screen width. So the screen width, and it's going to have a decoration of type box decoration. We're going to give it a color. So the color is app styles dot main color, and I'm going to give it a border radius of border radius dot circular 20.0. This container is going to have a child. Okay, so since this button is going to be clicked and we are going to update the state, so we are going to change this from a stateless widget to a stateful widget. Okay, because its state is going to update. So with that, we are going to check if widget dot is loading. So if it is loading, we want to show a circular progress indicator. So circular progress indicator. So else we want to show a text, and the text that we want to show is the widget dot title, the one that we specified at the top. Okay, which is going to have a style of app styles dot normal text style, like that. Cool. So with that, we can now go back to our sign-in screen. Right, so here we are going to have to create now our common button. For now, we are just going to have an empty on tap method here. For the title, I'm going to type sign in, and for is loading, for now I'm going to change this value to false for now, but I'm going to update it later, of course. After that, we are going to create another size box for some space. I'm going to give it a height of say 15. A text going to be or, which has a style of app styles dot title text style dot copy width, and I'm going to give it a color of colors dot black. We now want to create two buttons, one which is going to be tapped to register as a donor and one which is going to be tapped to register as a recipient. So for that, I'm going to create a container here, and this container is going to have a padding, a width of size config.screen width, alignment of alignment.center, the decoration of box decoration, border radius.circular of 20, border of border.all, a color, colors.black, width of 2, and a style of border style.solid, a child of text. So the text is going to register as recipient, which I'm going to give it a style of app styles dot normal text style dot copy width, color, colors dot black, like that. So I'm going to wrap this container into another widget or gesture detector, because you want it to be clickable. So it has an on tap parameter, and inside this on tap we now want to navigate to the registration screen to register as either a donor or a recipient. So for that, we are going to use context.goNamed. So since we have Go router, that's why we are able to do this. So we want to go to app routes want to go to the register.name, but we want to send something, and that something is the extra. So we want to know whether we clicked this button as either a recipient or a donor. So we are going to pass the extra. So for this, the extra that we're going to pass is the recipient, like that. Okay, so once we hit this button, we are going to be directed to the register screen, and we are going to register as a recipient. Okay, so after this gesture detector, we are going to have to add another sized box here and give it a height of 10, and we are going now to add yet another container, and this we are going to change this to donor, like that, and here register as a donor. So finally at the bottom, we can add yet another sized box to just give it some extra space at the bottom. To make this scrollable, we are going to wrap this column inside of another widget, which is a single child scroll view. So with that, our column is going to be scrollable. To give it a nice look, to give this interface a nice look, I'm going to wrap this column inside of a container. I'm going to give it a padding of edge inserts .all 10. I'm going to give it a decoration of box decoration, give it a color of colors.white, and give it a border radius of border radius.circular 20.0. So we are going to wrap this single child scroll view inside of yet another widget, which is a scaffold. On this scaffold, we are going to give it a background color, and the color that we want is the app styles.main color. We are going to wrap the single child scroll view inside of a padding, and this padding is going to be a body instead of a child. So this padding, instead of edge inserts.all, we are going to have edge inserts from LTRB. So from the top, we are going to have size config get proportionate width of 10. The top, we set the height of 50. The right, we give a width of 10, and the bottom, we give 0, like that. So I think I need to run the application so that we can have an idea of what is happening here instead of just writing this code. And for that, I think we just need to connect this application to Firebase so that we can be done with that, and use the aux state to direct the user to the sign-in screen or the main screen. Okay, so we should be able to access the main screen only if we are logged in, but if we are not logged in, we should be directed to the sign-in screen. Okay, and for that, let me go to the routes once again. And for that, first of all, what we need to do is to get the Firebase out. So here I'm going to create a simple provider to return the Firebase out. So final Firebase out provider equals to provider. So this should return Firebase out.instance. So I need to import Firebase out, like that. So this provider is going to give us the Firebase out. We can get the Firebase out by watching the Firebase out provider, like that. Inside here, we are going to add something called redirect, and we are going to implement redirect listenable. So with these two, we are going to listen to the out state of the user. If the users are not logged in, we are going to direct them to the sign-in screen. But if they are, we are going to direct them to the main screen right after displaying the splash screen. So redirect, first of all, it takes the context in the state. Inside here, we are going to check if the user is logged in or not. So this one is equals to Firebase out.current user is not equal to null. So this is a Boolean. It's true if the user is logged in, or if the current user is not equal to null. Okay, so here, now we are going to create another class that is now going to be listening to the state of the authentication state of the user, and then the redirect can do the necessary. So that class is going to be called GoRouter refresh stream. So I'm going to create new file here. And this file, I'm going to call it GoRouter refresh stream. And I'm going to create it here. So this is the class that we're going to use to listen to the auth state, and then we can direct the user accordingly. So in the refresh listenable, I'm going to call my class GoRouter refresh stream, the class that we have just created. And here I'm going to pass Firebase auth state changes, like that. So this is going to descend to the auth state changes, and when that changes, this functionality here is going to be called. Fantastic. So let us try to run the application. So right now it gives me an error. So let us just connect this application to Firebase first, and then we can try running it. So you can go to firebase.google.com, and then you can go to console. I'm going to create a new project, which I'm going to call blood donation, and click on continue. I'm not going to enable analytics. I'm going to click on create project. So this is going to take a while. I'm going to click on continue. So this is my my project. So what you need to do first is to connect this application to Flutter. So I'm going to click on connect to Flutter. Okay, so there are a few configurations that you need to do. In my to-do list application, I explain it in depth. The Flutterfire configure and then the project name. So I'm just going to copy that. I'm going to go to my project. I'm going to open the command prompt. So inside of here, I'm just going to paste that. I'm just going to deselect macOS, web, and Windows. I'm going to leave those. And then I'm just going to press enter. So it's also going to ask the package name. So for that, I'm going to just open build.gradle, and I'm going to copy this package name, and I'm going to paste that here. All right, so my app has been connected successfully to Firebase, and as you can see with that, several files have been added. For example, we have this file called Firebase options have been added automatically. So our application has been successfully connected to Firebase. All right, so since we are here, if I can click on next, I'm going to copy this piece of code here. Okay, and I'm going to go to my Android Studio. I'm going to go to the main.dat file, and here inside the main, I'm going to paste that code. As in this is await, we need to add a sync keyword here, like that. Again, I'm going to import Firebase core to solve that issue, and I'm going to import Firebase option file that has been created, like that. So I'm gonna go to Firebase real quick, and I'm gonna just continue to console. If I refresh this, we are going to see that an application has been connected. As you can see here, we have the application has been connected to Firebase. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to go to build, and I'm going to click on authentication. I'm going to click on get started here, and I'm going to enable email and password and click save. I'm also going to click build again and click on Firestore database. We're just going to use these two for this tutorial. We could use storage as well, but that requires you to connect your credit card for the pay as you go plan. But for just this particular video, we're just going to use these two. So I'm going to create a database. I'm going to click next here. I'm going to start in test mode and click on create. So for now, I'm just going to go to the rules. and so that we can be able to read and write. For the moment, I'm just going to set this all to true. I'm going to change the rules to true for now, like that. Let me go back to Android Studio. Let me try to run this application one more time since we have connected the application to Firebase. First, actually, I'm just going to stop it entirely and I'm going to run it once again. So before I run the application, here inside the main, I'm going to add this line. So widgets flutter binding dot ensure initialized, like that. And now with that, I can stop the application and I can run it once again. And we get some error. So let me go to the routes once again. As you can see, we set all this, but we did not remember to create another route here. So I'm just going to create another route here. And this route is going to be sign in. So it's going to be sign in, sign in, sign in. Don't know how I forgot that, but it's okay because we can always resolve the errors that we get. So with that, we get the splash screen and then we go to the sign-in screen. So let's go and fix the sign-in screen. Let me wrap this inside of a safe area. With that, it has started to take shape. It is taking a while to load the files. Because the font that we are using is that we are loading it from the Google Fonts. It's taking quite a while to load the styles, so that's why you are seeing that in this situation here, for example, we do not have fonts or the text that is supposed to appear here. If I can change this to a normal text style, let me change it to a normal text style. So I have also decided to just use the font size like this instead of using the our size config. I'm going to dig in a little deeper and see what exactly is going on. But for now, let us just use them like this. So that is our sign-in screen. So it should be like that. So as you can see here, what has happened is that we set the redirect and refresh listenable. So since we are not logged in, of course, we have not created any account. That is why we have been directed to the sign-in page, just like we have defined over here, okay? But if we had created an account, once the splash screen had loaded, we would have been directed directly to the main screen, okay? So that is the logic behind there. Okay, so once we have created the sign-in page, I want us to quickly create the register screen, and then we can work on the functionality. So let us create the register screen. So I'm just gonna go to authentication and then to screens. So here I'm going to create the register screen. So I'm going to call it registration screen. So the registration screen is also a consumer stateful widget registration screen, and I'm going to import the Riverpod package, and I'm going to import material.dat file like that. So remember when we said that once we click on either of these, we're going to register as either donor or a recipient. And for that, we are going to require to add a variable here. So a variable string type. I'm going to add that here. Okay, so inside the state class, we're going to add the email controller, the password, the name, and also the phone number. So let me do that quickly. Okay, and remember this needs to be disposed as well. So I'm going to override the dispose method, and I'm going to dispose all of this right now. So before we even continue, we are going to also need the blood groups. I'm going to create a variable called selected blood group, and then we are going to have a list of all the blood groups. So it's a list of type string blood groups. Blood groups are of course A positive and all the others. So I'm just gonna list them. Okay, like that. Registration screen is going to have almost the same layout as this. So I'm just going to go to the sign-in screen, and I'm going to copy the body. So let me just go to to the sign in screen, and I'm going to copy everything that is inside the build method, and I'm going to paste it inside the build method of the registration screen. Okay, so first of all, you need to change some things. So here, and first of all, let me import the text field. So the first text field that I'm going to create is going to be for name. Here, enter name. This is going to be text input type.text. And this is going to be name controller. So here, instead of a text that says sign in to your account, we are going to change this text to say widget.type and then add registration. So if a user clicks on recipient registration, is going to say recipient registration or donor registration, okay, depending on which button was clicked here. So after name, and this one is going to be for phone number, like that, and this is going to be text input name.number, and we are going to change the name to phone number controller, like that. Okay, so another thing that we need to do now is to create a drop down for selecting the blood group, a drop down button form field, which is of type string. We are going to first of all set the value, and the value is going to be selected blood group. Okay. And so with that, we are going to have this drop-down menu item that has the list of the blood groups. Okay, so after that, we are going to create a size box for some space, and then we can have the email, the password, and the common button for signing up. So here is we are going to change this from sign in to register. Register me now. So here we are going to change these buttons. So I'm going to remove this, and I'm going to remain with this. So I need to import Go router here, and I need to import routes. So this one should read sign in to my account, like that, and it should direct the user to the sign in page. And the sign in page does not have an extra. You don't need this you don't need to pass the extra, like that. Okay, I think it looks okay. So now what you need to do is that you need to register this route inside the Go router. So go to Go router, and you need to register this route. So I'm going to just copy here. I'm going to paste it down there. So this is going to be register. So it's going to be register approach.register.name. So here we are going to return registration screen, and here I'm going to convert this from a fat arrow to a block body. Okay, what we need to do here is that we need to create a string. So what I need here is the type. So final type is equals to state final type is equals to state dot extra a string, because what we are passing is a string, and then we pass that type here, like that. Okay, now with that, we have successfully registered the registration screen inside of the routes. Let me go back to registration screen and ensure that everything is okay, and let me run it again. Oh, I see where the problem is. So we have an issue here. I forgot to add some brackets here, like that. Okay, so with that, if I click on register as a recipient, I get directed to that, and I get recipient registration at the top. I want us now to work on the login functionality, so that when we enter these details here and click on sign in, we are directed to the main screen of the application. So for that, I'm going to, inside of this authentication, I'm going to go to data. I'm going to create a new file here, which I'm going to call auth repository. So this is class auth repository. We are going to have the property Firebase auth, and you are going to create a constructor that takes this.auth, like that. So inside of this repository, we are going to create two methods. One method for signing the user, and another one for creating a user. So let's start with sign in. So future after void, sign in with email and password, required string email, and also required string password. Is going to be an async method, and inside here we are going to await auth.signin with email and password, passing the email and the password. Okay, again, now let us now create another method for creating a user with email and password. It's going to be a future of type void, create user with email and password. So to create a user, first of all, we are going to have a required string email, required string password. Also, we are going to require them to input their name. So in required string name, also required string blood group, also required string phone number, and also required string type. So this again is going to be an async method. So first of all, we want to create the user and get their ID, and then use the ID to save that data to Firebase Firestore. We are gonna get the credential. So final cred equals to auth.create user with email and password, passing the email and the password. Now with that, we are going to have the credential. Again, now we are going to create an app user to enable us to have an easier way to add that data to Firebase. So with that, I'm going to go to domain, and I'm going to create a new class, a new file, which I'm going to call app user. So class app user. So and now here we define all the properties of our user. Okay, now I have an app user. So going back to the auth repository, now we can use this app user. So app user equals to app user, and pass all these values. So for the user ID is the credential.user.user ID. And so since this is an asynchronous activity, we are going to await it here. So we're going to await so that we can eliminate that error here. .uid, like that. Okay, now we want to save this data to Firestore. So final Firebase Firestore is equals to Firebase Firestore.instance. So now we can await Firebase Firestore.collection. So the collection that I want us to save this data is users.document is credential.user.uid, and then .set app user to mark to now save that data. All right, so now with that, we have a method to sign in a user, and we also have a method to create a user. So one other method that I want to create yet another method, and that method is to get the current user. There is this user class that is provided by Firebase. So, but I'm going to use a question mark here because it can be null. So user get current user, and this should return auth.current user, like that. And finally, we are going to create a method for signing the user out. So future void sign out. I'm going to await auth.signout. Okay. Now I want us to create providers for some of these methods. So we are going to use the Riverpod annotation. And first, I want us to provide the auth repository. So auth repository ref. So here we are going to return auth repository, and we are going to pass Firebase auth.instance, like that. So before I do anything else, let me add the line auth repository.g.dat, like that. And with that, let me run the build runner to create the file to solve the error. So let me first import this. Let me now run the build runner once again. It had given me an error because of that, because of not importing the Riverpod annotation package at the very top here. And with that, we have solved that error completely. So we also need to create one more method for getting the current user. So user, current user ref. So first we get the repository. So final how the repository equals to ref.watch how the repository provider, and then we can return how the repository dot current user. So with that, we are able to get the current user. So let me run the build runner once again. Sorry, I forgot to add the Riverpod annotation here. One more method that I'd like us to add, because we are going to need it anyway, is a method to load the user's information. So once we have signed in, we are going to be directed to the main screen, of course, but we want a way to load the user information from Firebase. And I suggest that we create a method now that is going to help us with that. Is going to be a stream of type app user. Let me call this method load user information. And since we are loading the information from Firebase, we are going to need to specify which user are we loading the information for. So we are going to pass the user ID there, and then we are going to return Firebase firestore.instance.collection. So the collection is users.doc, now the user ID, .snapshots.map doc snapshot, return app user .from map, and then pass doc snapshot.data. So with that, we are going to load the user information. So let us also create a provider for this method. Okay, again with that I can run the build runner once again, and that should create that provider successfully. So if we can open the repository.g.dat, we can see we have the repository provider there. You have the current user provider there, and you also have the load user information provider over here. Fantastic. Now I want us to create a controller. Let me open the controllers here, and I'm going to create a new file, which I'm going to call out controller. So it's going to be a class out controller. So this controller extends an async notifier of type void. So here we need to override this method, but for now we are not going to do anything at the moment. Let me just delete everything there. Let me create a method to sign the user. So future void sign in with email and password. So we are going to require string email and also going to require string password. So this is an async method. So if email.stream.is empty, so these are just a basic input validations here. We are not going to do something very complex. And also password.stream.is empty. We are going to change the state to an async error with the error message that says ensure all fields are filled, and the stack trace, we just pass stack trace.current. So if our details are filled, we change the state to async loading like that, and then we say state is equals to await async value.guard ref.read. Here I'm going to pass the auth repository provider dot sign in with email and password, passing in the email and the password. We now need to create the method for creating the user with email and password. Okay, so let me just do that quickly. So here we perform some validations here. So else state, we update it to const async loading. Also state equals to await async value.guard all ref.read out the repository provider .create user with email and password, passing all that information like that. So with that, we have our methods to manage the state. If there are empty fields, it's going to validate, it's going to have a simple input validation there, and then it's going to update the state of our screens respectively. Now we can try to go to the sign-in screen and implement now the sign-in once the button has been clicked. Once the sign-in button has been clicked. Here is the sign-in button. The on tap is here. So first of all, I want us to extract the email. So the email is going to be email controller.text.toString, and also we can extract the password. So final password email equals to password controller.text.toString. Now before we do that, I forgot something. Let's go to the auth controller. So what we need to do here is that we need to create a provider for this as well. So for that, here, instead of extending async notifier, what we can do is that we can extend auth controller like that, and then we are going to add the Riverpod annotation there, and then we are going to add the part. So part auth underscore controller g.duct like that. Now with that, let me run the build runner once again. So if I go to sign-in screen to ensure that we don't have an error at the moment, let me delete that for a moment. Now let's go to the terminal, and I'm going to run the build runner once again. So with that, the error has been eliminated. And if I go to the sign-in screen now inside this on tap method, we can now be able to call that method. So here I want to call the auth controller provider .notifier .sign in with email and password, and we pass that email and that password like that. So clicking on that, we do not see any of the errors that we specified. So to do that, what I want us to do is to create a simple extension method that is going to allow us to display any errors that we might get. Let's go to common widgets here, and I'm going to create a file which I'm going to call async value UI. And here I'm going to create an extension method that we are going to use. All right, now with this extension method, once we click on a button, it's going to show an alert dialog. As you can see, we have a dialog here that is going to give us information when something goes wrong, or maybe when a user tries to sign in without having these details input. Okay. Also, in case we get Firebase errors, we are going to display that error inside of this dialog that we are going to show. Okay. So once we have that, let's go to the sign-in screen. And for that, inside the build method of our sign-in screen, we can say ref.listen sync value. Here we pass the provider we want to listen to. So it's auth controller provider. Here we get the previous state and the new state. And now here we use state.show alert dialog on error, and we pass the context. So this is the method, this show alert dialog on error. This is what we have created in our async value UI. So this is the show alert dialog on error method. So another thing that we want to add is when we click on this sign in, we want to replace this with a loading indicator. And to do that, want to listen to the state. So final state equals to ref.watch the auth controller provider. If this is loading, remember I told you that we are going to come back to this. Now in this is loading, remember I told you to put false. No, we don't want to hard code the value here. We want to get this value dynamically, and we can get the state dot is loading. So if state dot is loading, remember in the command button we said if the state dot was loading, we want to get the circular progress indicator. Okay, if not, we display the text of that particular button. So let me try to reload the app. So if I click on sign in, as you can see, we get the fields are not filled because we have not input anything. But if we try to sign in but we do not have an account, okay, if now I try to sign in, as you can see it's loaded, and since we do not have an account, we get the error that we get from Firebase like that. So I want us to go to the registration page and try to register our user. So first, inside the sign in, we are going to copy these these lines of code here, and I'm going to open the registration screen. So inside the registration screen at the top, I'm going to copy those same lines here of code here because we are going to do almost the same thing. And I'm going to import these files like that. Okay, so here inside the is loading, I'm going to replace that to state dot is loading like that. And inside the on tap, now we are going to perform the registration. And now with that, we can now call ref.read. We are going to add auth controller provider .notifier .create user with email and password. We are going to pass all that. For the blood group we set the selected blood group like that. And the type we pass the widget dot type to get the type that the user selected, that what they want to register as. Okay, so let me try to register, to now register myself here. So here I forgot to put a comma here. So with that, let me try to register. Let me click on register me now. So you can see it loads and I'm directed to the main screen. So if I go to Firebase, let me go to authentication. So you can see I'm registered. And if I go to data, as you can see, I have now a user that has been registered with all their information. Cool. Also for the sign in, it's going to work as well because I had tested it before. So inside this main screen, I want us to create a drawer which is going to have a hamburger icon here, that when I click on it, we get that drawer that I showed at the beginning of the video. To create the drawer, I'm going to come to the widgets here, and I'm going to create a new dat file, which I'm going to call main drawer. So the main drawer is going to be a consumer widget. And here we're going to return a drawer. So this drawer is going to have a child, and the child that I want is the column which has children. So this drawer also, I want it to be inside of a safe area. The widget is safe area like that. So the first element of our column is something called the drawer header. So I'm going to have a drawer header whose child is a container which has a width of double dot infinity, a decoration of box decoration, color. The color is app styles dot main color, has a border radius of border radius dot circular 10.0, at a border border.all, color of colors.white, style border style.solid, and a width of 2, like that. And the child of this container is a column. Column has children, so the children, first of all, we are going to have an image asset, image.asset. So what we want to have is our logo first, so assets/logo.png, which we are going to give a height of size config.get proportionate height of 50, and we are going to give a width of size config.get proportionate width of 50 as well. We're also going to give it a fit of box fit.cover. So before I continue, let me add this drawer to the main screen so that we can see what we are doing. So let me add the drawer to main drawer. It's a const main drawer. As you can see, we have a hamburger icon here now. And as you can see now, we have that drawer like that. Let me add the main axis alignment of center, and then I want now to add some text. Let me show you. I want to add some text that says blood donation app, like that, which has a style of app styles title text style, that. And you can have yet another text. This one is going to be your name. The name is going to appear here. So with this you can use normal text style, and you can also create one more here for the email, that. So we can reduce the size of this. So for this overflow errors, maybe I can reduce the size of this to 40 to remove those overflow errors there. Now after the drawer header, what remaining now is this space here, and this is where we are going to have all the other menus of our drawer. So after the drawer header, but inside of the column, we are going to have a container. But since we wanted to take the remaining space, we are going to wrap it inside of an expanded widget. So expanded widget, and now the child is our container, like that, which has a width. So the width is double.infinity, like that. It has a margin of edge insets.all 15. It has a decoration of type box decoration. The color is app styles.main color. The border radius is border radius.circular 10.0. border.all. So the color is colors.white. Style is border style.solid, and a width of 2. Let me save that. And as you can see now, we have beautiful background over there. Cool. So the child of this container is a column, which I'm gonna set the cross-axis alignment to start, and of course it's gonna have some children. So this column, I'm going to want it to have some padding, so I'm gonna wrap it with the padding, and the padding that I want is edge insets dot from LTRB. I'm going to give it a 5, and the rest I'm going to leave them with 0. And finally, since this column I want it to be scrollable, I want to put it instead of a single child scroll view, or maybe this entire padding, I can wrap it inside of a single child scroll view, like that. This column, its children are going to be a list of list styles, so it's going to be a list style. So this first one, as you can remember, the first one we had, the leading here is going to be an icon, icons.home, colors.black, and a size of 30. Title is a text that reads home, which has a style of app styles.heading text style.copy width, font size of 17.0. That we can add a const here, like that. And it's also going to have an on tap. So when it is tapped, we are going to navigate to the home page, to the main page. So app routes.main.name, like that. Again, we are going to have another list style. For this video, I'm just gonna repeat them like this. So here I'm going to have an icon of check circle. Yeah, I'm going to type donors emailed. On top, we are going to have to navigate to a different screen. So again, I'm going to copy this again. I'm gonna paste it here. This one I'm gonna say same blood group as me. Here I'm going to have an icon of a handshake, and we are going to have that. As you can see, if you can remember at the beginning of the video, we had something like this. Then I'm going to add a divider here, which has a colors.white, and I'm gonna give it a height of 2. It's a const divider. After that, I'm going to create a text that reads blood groups with a style of appstyles.normal text style. Okay, now we have that, and I'm going to create a list style. Let me copy this and paste it here. So for this list style, the leading is not going to be an icon, but it's going to be an image, because I tried to look at the icons that are similar to the blood groups, but I could not find those icons. So I created some images. I'm going to paste those images inside of my assets folder. And here I have all the blood groups that I need. I'm actually going to copy even these other images here, because I know I'm gonna need them. And actually the font for this is the font that we were supposed to use. So these are the different blood groups here. So here for the leading is going to be an image asset. So image.asset. So the first one is going to be asset/a+.png. It's going to have a height, and it's going to have a width of 30, like that. The text is going to be, the title is going to be or a positive, like that. So it's going to be upstyle. We're going to use the normal text style here, and it's going to have the on top as well. So I'm going to need to load the application again so that all this can appear. But what is going to happen is that once we tap on each of them, I want us to be directed to a different screen that shows only donors of that blood group. And for that, I'm going to create another screen inside of screens here, inside the user management. Here I'm going to create a new screen, and the screen is going to be called blood group selected screen. And this screen is going to be a consumer widget called blood group selected screen. Import material that, and I'm going to import material that here. So for now, so this is going to take a string blood group. So final string blood group, which I'm gonna need to take here inside in the constructor, like that. So for the moment, I'm just going to return a scaffold with an app bar, which has a title of type text, a text that has text blood group, and then blood group, and have a style of app styles title text style. Okay, once we tap on this, for example, on a positive, for example, I want us to be directed to the approach.bloodgroupselected.name, but you are going to pass an extra. So the extra that you are going to pass here is, for this, is going to be a positive. So that is the extra that you are going to pass. Okay, and for that, let us navigate to the routes. And we need to register now this screen that we have just created, and that screen is going to be inside of the main. This main is going to have routes. Okay, and that route is, we can just copy this here, the registration. I'm going to paste it here. Okay, so the route is going to be blood group selected. Blood group selected is the path. So blood group selected, this is going to be blood group, and here you want to return blood group selected screen, passing the blood group like that. Back to this, here I misspelled, it should be assets, like that, assets. As you can see now, we have that. So if I click on this, as you can see, we are directed to this screen, and we have that title like that. Okay, so I'm going to do the same for all the others. Okay, so I'm going to take a minute to do that and I'll be back in a second. I have created all of that, and as you can see now, we have all of those. Maybe I can try to add the font size of this to increase it so that they can look similar to these ones. Okay. All right, and now with that, we have our menus like that with all the blood groups and some other cool stuff here at the bottom. One thing that I want to do is to be able to fetch this information at the top here. So to do that, we can come to the build method. And remember, we already created a method to pull the information from the Firestore for the user using the auth repository. So you can remember here, we created this method that returns a stream of type user called load user information. And that requires the user ID. So we are going to utilize this method. So for that, first, we need to get the user ID. So the user ID equals to ref.watch. And this is the reason why this main drawer was a consumer widget, so that we can be able to use the ref. So the provider that you want to use here is the current user provider.uid. And since we are in the main screen and there's no way we can behave if the authentication value is null, so that is why it's safe here to use the assertion operator. Again, we can use ref.listen. So in case we get an error, we pass a sync value, and the provider that we want here to now look at is the load user information provider. Okay, and remember, this requires us to pass the user ID. Okay, and this here we get the previous state that you're not going to use and the current state, and for that we are going to call state.show alert dialog on error, and we are going to pass the context here in case we get an error. We want to read user information. I'm going to put that in a variable called user data async equals to ref.watch. So load user information provider, and we are going to pass the user ID over here like that. This use data async, as you can see, it returns an async value, and that value is of three states. It's either loading, error, or data. Okay, so you can use a stream builder or a future builder to deal with situations like those. But what I suggest that we do is that we are going to create yet a separate widget to handle that situation. So I'm going to call this async value widget. So inside this async value widget, which is a stateless widget, so this is a stateless widget called async value widget, which is going to be of generic type T. So extend stateless widget. Let me import material.dat, and let me remove this. I don't need that here. So this is the async value widget, which is a stateless widget. So an async value has three states of data, error, and loading. And so instead of using a stream builder or feature builder, we are going to replace that with the async value widget, and we are going to pass the value as the stream that we get by listening to this loader user information provider. Here, let us temporarily remove this cut. So I'm going to return an async value widget. So this is of type app user. The value is the user data async value like that, and the data, so the data that we get here is the user data. Okay, let me put, and now inside here, now we can return our safe area and the data. Since we have an async value widget here and the user data, inside this text, your name here, now what we can do, we can just say user data dot, let me remove this const. So user data dot name, and here instead of text email, we can just say user data dot email like that. So if I was to save that, as you can see now, it loads my name and my email like that. Something else that I want to do is that I want now to log out. I want to register as a donor. And then when I log in as this user, because this is a recipient, I'm going to see all the list of donors that are going to be available here. Okay. So first, I'm going to create another screen that I'm going to call account screen, which is going to live inside this authentication. So inside authentication, in the screens, I'm going to create yet another screen, which I'm going to call account screen. So account screen is a consumer widget. So inside the account screen, I want us to return a scaffold with an app bar. So app bar, with the title of text, the text that reads my profile information, like that. So before I do anything, let me register this screen in the routes. So I'm gonna go to routes. So inside this main, I'm going to add yet another route. So I'm going just to copy this one of these routes here. I'm going to add this route here. This route is the account route. So I'm going to copy the account there. I'm gonna paste here, and I'm gonna paste here. And I want us to return account screen. Okay, like that. And then I'm gonna go to the main drawer. Inside the main drawer, I'm gonna look for account. So it's we are gonna navigate to the account.name, like that. So if I save that and restart the application, and I can come to the drawer once again. Let me go to the my account. I'm gonna tap on my account, and this directs me to the account. I'm going to give this a style of app styles dot title textile. Or let me give it heading textile. Fantastic. So the scaffold, the body is going to be a column, and the column of course has its children. So the first is going to be a text, and the text is going to be type, and you are going to pass user type. I'm going to have add a style of app style dot normal textile, or you can have a title textile. I'm gonna have a sized box here, which I'm gonna give a height of size config get proportionate height, and give it a height of 20. And then I'm gonna have image.asset slash recipient.png, give it a height of size config dot get proportionate height of 100, and a width of size config dot get proportionate width of 100 as well. I'm gonna give it a fit of box fit dot cover. For now, let's give that const. We are going to have another sized box and give it a height of 20, and then you are gonna have other texts. It's going to be name. We are gonna have another one for blood group. And then we are gonna have another sized box here, and this time we are going to have now a common button here, which at the moment I'm just going to have a title that says sign out, and here loading I'm just gonna put false at the moment. Okay, let me change the colors of this. Oh, nice. We needed to add this as config.init there to have the image load. So our column, we need to have some spacing at the sides. So I'm going to wrap this column inside of a padding, and the padding I'm going to add edge insets.symmetric and add the horizontal padding of 20, like that. Okay, so as we did last time, we need to load this information now from Firebase Firestore. And for that, let me go to the main drawer, and we did something similar this place. So I'm just going to copy this code here, and I'm gonna go to the account screen, and I'm gonna paste that here. Okay, so yeah, let's import these files and this file here. So inside here, inside the body, I'm going to copy everything in the body, this padding, cut it. So the body, I'm going to pass the async value widget. Okay, so remember it's of just a generic type. I'm going to pass app user there. The value is user data async, and the data is the data that we get. So I'm gonna pass user data there, and then we are going to return the padding. Okay, so like that. So here, instead of the type, here we can just pass user data dot type. So user data dot type, like that. Okay, so here another thing we can do is that instead of just passing the donor, what we can do is that we can render this image conditionally. So we can say if user data dot type equals to donor, if that is the case, then we can pass that. That. So else we can pass recipient, like that. So if I save that, as you can see, the image changed here because this user that is logged in here is a recipient. Then we have that different image. So for the name, again, we can do the same. As you can see, now we have loaded all the information successfully. So finally, let us work on signing out the user so that we can go on and register as a donor. And now inside this method, we are going to call the logout method, like that. So at the top here, we are going to create the logout method. So first, I want to create an alert dialog that when I tap on this, we are going to see an alert dialog that tells us whether to want to log out or not. And then when we click on logout, we are logged out of the application. So I'm just going to do that. So this is the alert dialog. The title says, "Are you sure?" with an icon logout. So in the actions, I have two elevated buttons. So the first elevated button has a text of cancel. And when we tap on that, we just pop out the alert dialog with the navigator of context pop. But if we click on logout, what we do is that first of all, we use ref.read, the repository provider.sign out, and we also refresh the Go router provider state. Okay. So with that, we are going to be able to log out the user. So, and remember, we called that method here at the bottom. So if I save everything, and if I click on logout, as you can see, we get this pop-up. If we click on cancel, it disappears. But if we click on logout, we are logged out. And since we are logged out, we are automatically directed to the sign-in screen. So I want to register as a donor. So I'm just going to click on register as a donor. And as you can see here, it says donor registration. So I'm going to register as a donor here. So I'm going to click on register me. So a donor has been registered. So I'm going to sign out again, and I'm going to sign in now as a recipient so that I can be able to see that donor when I open the application. So as you can see here, my profile is a donor, of course. This is a donor and everything. First of all here, I forgot to change the color to colors.black so that we can have the type here. So this is a donor, and I'm going to log out, and I'm going to log in with my recipient email. Now we have been signed in again. This is this is a recipient account. Okay, now I want us to work on loading all the donors that are present in the application. Okay, so first of all, let me work on this title here. So main screen. So instead of main screen, let me rename it to the name of the application: style, app styles, heading, text style. So to load the donors of the application, I want us to go to the user management, go to data, and we are going to create a file there. And this file is going to be called Firestore repository. Okay, so this is class Firestore repository. And here in the Firestore repository, we are going to create methods that are going to be used to load data from Firestore. Final Firebase Firestore. I'm going to call it Firestore. And I'm gonna create a constructor, Firestore repository, this.firestore, like that. So let me create a method of loading the donors of the application. So this is going to be a stream, a list of type app user, which I'm gonna call load donors, and we are going to return firestore.instance.collection. So the collection is users.where, so where the type is equal to donor. .snapshots.map, so you want to map query snapshots, query snapshot, and return query snapshot.docs.map doc, and return app user dot from map doc.data dot to list, like that. Remember that we also want to filter these donors, so we want to filter those that are similar to us, okay? And we also want to load donors that are of specific blood groups. So I'm going to create yet another method for that, like that. Okay, so as you can see here, I have created two more methods. So one method is for loading donors with specific blood groups, okay, such that we have collection users and we filter by blood group. And again, we filter where blood group is equal to the specific blood group, so that when we click on these ones, we can be able to load donors of that specific blood group, okay? And the rest is similar to the one that we created together. This one is for similar blood groups. We pass the blood group, okay? And here we are going to filter by type donor, and we say where the blood group is equal to the blood group. So this blood group is going to be the blood group of the signed in recipient, okay? And of course, the rest is similar to the other ones. So now I'm going to create providers for those, okay? So as you can see here, it's similar to what we did in the auth repository, okay? So first, this is the provider to get the Firestore repository, and then this one is providers for loading the donors, loading donors with specific blood groups, and loading donors who have similar blood groups to us, okay? And with that, let me run the build runner again. So let me refactor this to use the variable Firestore, the private variable Firestore, like that, because it's no need to say Firestore.instance, but then when we are using these methods, we are using the Firestore repository, and the Firestore repository is instantiating it here already, so we don't really have to repeat ourselves here. Okay, so now with that, now we can go to the main screen and try now to load the donors with the providers that we have created. Here in the main screen, in the build method, first we can create the variable donors async value. So this is going to be ref.watch load donors provider, like that, okay? And in case you get an error, of course we want to listen to it and show it with an alert dialog. So inside the body here, you can pass a column with children, and we want to have some space around this column. So I'm going to add a padding with an engine set.all of 8. And since we want to display the donors in a list view builder, we have to use an expanded widget here. So expanded, so the child is an async value widget, and this is of type list of app user. The value is donors async value, and the data is now the list of donors. And now here we are going to return. So if the donors dot is empty, so if that list is empty, we are going to return a center widget with a child of text that says no donors yet. Else, we're going to return our list view dot builder, then item count donors dot length, item builder, context. So here we can return a user item. So we are going to create a user item here, which is gonna take an app user, and the app user that we're gonna take is the donor at the current index. Because remember, donors are app users as well. This is donors at the current index, like that. So we are going to return this. I'm going to create a widget. So inside the widgets, I'm going to create another widget called user item. So this user item is a consumer widget. So this takes an app user. So final app user, and ensure that you pass that. If I go back to main screen, I should now be able to import this like that. I can remove that like that. I can go to user item, and now here I want to display the details of that donor here. So here we're going to return a card, and a card, the child is a list type. So the leading is going to be an image asset, image.asset, like that. So app user dot type. So if the user type equals to donor, we are going to set the asset to asset/donor.png. Else assets.recipient.png, like that. As you can see already, since it's a donor, we already get that. We're going to give it a height of size config. Here we can have size config.init. We are going to set size config.get proportionate height, and give it a height of 100, and give it a width of 100 as well, like that. We can have a title. So the title is going to be a column with children. So the first head is going to be a text. So app user dot type dot uppercase to uppercase with a style of app styles normal text style, like that. Dot copy with colors dot black. So we can have yet another text. This time this text should say the name of this donor, which I'm gonna pass to be app user dot name. We are gonna set an overflow of ellipsis, text overflow dot ellipsis. If I save, so you can see now the name appears, the name of that donor. We can have yet another text. This time is gonna be the email of this donor. Okay, and let me change here to email. We can have another one for phone number, username.phone, like that. And we can have the final one for blood group. So name.blood group, like that. So finally we can have a trailing. So for trailing, we are going to create a button, elevated button, which is going to have an on pressed. At the moment, we are just going to have an empty function. A child is going to be a text, which for now is gonna say email, like that. And this button is gonna have a style. So elevated button style dot style from, and give it a background color of app colors of app styles dot main color. So I can move this child at the end, like that. So this text, I'm gonna give it a style of app styles dot normal text style, like that. Great. Now since we have that, we can load all the donors here, which is nice. Okay, so the other thing that I want us to do is to be able to load donors of specific blood groups. Okay, since we already created providers for that, and what we can do is that we can go to blood group selected screen here. Okay, here it is. So as you can see here, it takes the blood group, and so here in the build method of this class, we can have final donors async value equals to ref.watch. We can watch the load specific blood groups provider, and we pass the blood group that we get here. So we are going to copy this, go back to the blood group selected, and paste that. Again, this is the provider that we want to listen to, and I'm going to import this method to show an alert dialog in case of an error. Now basically what's going to happen here, we want the same functionality like the main screen. So if you go to the main screen, I'm just going to copy this entire body. I'm going to go to blood group selected, and I'm going to add the body like that. So I'm going to import the async value widget, and I'm going to import the user item. So let me save to reformat. Okay, now we have that. So what is happening here is that we have this donor async value that are loaded for that specific blood group. Okay, and now if the list is empty, we get a text that says no donors yet. But if the list is not empty, then we load all those donors using this listview.builder. Okay, so for example, if we go to the B negative, for example, as you can see, it gets no donors yet. Okay, but if we go to O positive, we get this because they are O positive. But if we go to like O negative, again, we do not have donors of that specific blood group yet. Okay, again, if we want to get the same donor as me, I can go to the main drawer. If I open the main drawer here, when I click on same donor as me, we go to blood group selected, but here we have to pass an extra, and the extra that I want to pass is user data dot blood group, like that. So if I save that, and if I click on same BG as me, as you can see, we have that donor. So for that, we would get all those donors that have similar blood groups as us. Nice. Now I want us to work on the functionality of sending an email. I want us, when we click on this email button, to send this donor an email automatically from this application. And to do that, first of all, remember at the beginning of the video, or at the beginning of this course, in the pubspec.yaml file, I added this mailer dependency. Okay, so ensure that you have this mailer dependency, because it's going to do a lot of heavy lifting for us to be able to achieve that functionality. So I'm going to close this. I'm going to go to the user management. I'm going to go to data, and inside here, I'm going to create a .dat file, which I'm going to call mail repository, like that. Right, so inside here, we're going to create a method, a feature of type void. This method is called send email, and we are going to have required string donor email, required string recipient email, required string recipient name, required string recipient phone, and required string recipient blood group. So this is going to be an async method. All right. So the first thing that you need here is to now declare the email that is going to be used to send emails to these donors directly from your application. So for me here, I'm going to use my own email, but to use your own email, don't use mine, ensure that you use yours. I'm going to send my email here, and these are constants because we do not plan on changing them. Here for the password, so you can go to this link here. I'm going to set it in the description. This is going to allow you to create app password. Okay, so ensure that you create an app password. But for that, first of all, you have to ensure that your account has two-step verification so that you can be able to be given an app password. So this is the app password that you are going to be given is going to be very important. That is what you are going to input here. It's a 16-digit code which you are going to place here. Okay, you are going to place yours here. So this is a username. You can call it username and a password. Okay, so final smtp server equals to Gmail, and I need to pass the username and password. So this Gmail, I need to import my mailer package. So at the top, we have to ensure that we import mailer and the gmail.dat file. So then we need to create the message. So final message equals to message, okay, from address. So we pass the username there, and you type the title blood donation app, like that. Recipients.add So here you pass the donor email, because the donor email is going to receive that email. Okay, subject is blood donation request from. Now you pass the recipient name there. Okay, and the text, so the text is quite a bit, so I'm gonna write it quickly. Fantastic. So after that, let us now try to send this message. So for that, we can add a try block here. So try await, so send the message, and then the SMTP server. In case of an error, so on mailer exception, catch E, throw exception, failed to send email. So with that, we are going to be able to send our email. So finally, let us now create a provider for this class. Okay, so first we are going to add a Riverpod annotation, and then we now create the mail repository. So mail repository ref. So this is the method that returns the mail repository. So we are going to return our mail repository like that. Import the Riverpod annotation there, and here at the top we add the part mail repository.g.dat like that. Now I can go to, let me open a new window, and I can now run that. Okay, so now we have that. I want us to create a controller, but so that we can update the state when we tap on this email button. Okay, so we are done with the mail repository. Go to the controller, and I'm going to create mail controller here. Mail controller. So class mail controller, this extends async notifier of type void. Here we are going to need to override the build method, and for the moment you are not going to do anything. So here we create the method future void send email. Okay, so it has required string donor email, required string recipient email, required string recipient name, required string recipient form, and required string recipient blood group. It's an async. So here we try, so state equals to const async loading, and then we are going to await ref.read mail repository provider dot send email, passing the properties that we need. And once we've done that, state, if it is successful, state is equals to const or async data null, like that. So in case of an error, so catch stack trace, state equals to async error is E, and stack trace, and then return false. So this is we are going to change this to bool, and here we are going to return true, like that. So since we need to create this provider, and we are using the generator package, so this, instead of async notifier, we are going to extend mail controller. We can use the Riverpod annotation here and add part mail controller.g.dat. Again, let me run build runner again. So that has created the mail controller.g.dat file. Here it is, and we have our mail controller provider here. Nice. So now with that, since we have created that, I want us now to think about when we click on this email, we want to do some few things. First, we want to send notifications. We're going to notify this user that they have sent a request, and also the donor, they are going to receive a notification telling them that they have received blood donation request. So to do that, we are going to go to user item. Okay, let's go to user item. So this user item, we are going to work mostly on this elevated button, on this on pressed. So when it is pressed, we are going to perform some specific activities. Okay, so also remember, when a user opens on these donors emailed, you need to load the donors that they have emailed. So to do that, first of all, we are going to go to the Firestore repository, and inside here, we are going to add a few methods. The first method that I want us to create is the method to save the ID of that user that was emailed. And remember, also the donors need to know the people that emailed them, okay? I'm going to create a method here, a method called save IDs to database. And here we are going to save the ID, required string recipient ID, and also required string donor ID async. So here we are gonna access the firestore.collection emails.doc recipient ID .collection users emailed.add. We want to add the donor ID and set its value to true, because remember, these people can send email to several people, or these recipients can send emails to several donors. Okay, that's why we just want to save their IDs, and then we can use those IDs to access the data of these donors later on. Again, we also need to do the same, since the donors also need to know the people that emailed them. Again, now we are going to save this, the donor ID, then node is going to be the donor ID. So the recipient ID, the value of true, like that. The other method that I need to create is a method for adding notifications now. So add notifications. So we have required string recipient ID and required string donor ID. Also, we are going to add a specific notification, and for that, I'm gonna go to the domain and I'm going to create a new class which I'm gonna call app notification. And here we are going to define how our notification looks like. So that is how our notification class looks like. So here we're also going to say required app notification like that, async. So here we are going to await firestore.collection. So the collection is going to be called notifications.doc donor ID .collection user notifications.add app notification.toMap, like that. Again, we can also do the same, because we need to save these twice. Also need to save now these to recipient ID, the same path, etc. And since now we have added notifications, we also need to read notifications. Okay, again, we are going to create another method here, a stream of type list of app notification called load notifications. But you want to load notification for specific users. So I want to pass the user ID here, and I want to return at firestore.collection notifications.doc user ID .collection user notifications.snapshots.map query snapshot.docs.map app notification from map doc.data to list, like that. You're also going to need to load, since we saved the IDs of the people that have emailed us or we have sent emails to, you also need to load those IDs, and then you are going to use those IDs to display the information of those users. So stream is going to be a list of string, because IDs are strings. So it's going to be a list of string, and this method is called load emailed user IDs. Again, we are going to load for specific users. So user ID, we are going to return firestore.collection. So the collection that we are interested is these emails. Okay, .doc the user ID .collection. Again, the collection that we are interested in here is this users emailed, like that. .snapshots.map query snapshot here we return query snapshot dot docs dot map doc, then return doc dot data dot keys dot toList dot expand keys, return keys dot toList. We need to create now providers for these two methods here. I'm going to do that real quick. Okay, I'm going to run the build runner again, and with that our providers have been created successfully. Okay, so before we continue here with this button, we need to go to the controllers. Okay, since in the first repository we have created this method of adding notification and saving IDs to database, we need to update the state, and we need to ensure that the loading indicators is still active while these processes are taking place in the background. So I need to go to the controllers, and I'm going to create a new file which I'm going to call Firestore controller. Okay, so it's a class Firestore controller. So again, like we did in the previous, so it's going to extend a async notifier of type void, and we are going to override method, and now we are going to create now this method, a feature of type void, save IDs to database. So this method, save IDs to database. So let me create the other method of adding notifications. So this is our method add notification, and it's going to update our state respectively. All right, so now that we have that, we have been able to create these two methods, and I've created this controller. Here, what I can do is that since I want to auto-generate the provider itself, I'm going to extend Firestore controller like that. I'm going to add at Riverpod annotation here, and I'm going to add part Firestore controller.g.dat. Now with that, I can now run the build runner again, and with that, our errors have been eliminated. So now, finally, we can come to the user item. So inside this build method, I want to load the user ID. So the current user ID. So equals to ref.watch current user provider .uid, like that. Now we get the data of the user. So user data async equals to ref.watch load user information provider, passing the user ID. So when we will be sending this email, we are going to need to update the state, and the state variable is going to be ref.watch. It's mail controller provider. And in case we get an error, we want to show that error. So ref.listen mail async value mail controller provider, and the listener, we get the previous state which we are not going to use, and the state, and then here state.show alert dialog on error, passing the context like that. So here the entire card, here we want to return an async value widget which is of type app user. So the value is user data async, and the data is user data, and then we are going to return our card like that. So when the email button is pressed, we are going to convert this to an async, and we are going to add quite a lot of business logic here, which is not recommended, but just for the sake of this video, and this is because I'm feeling quite tired, I'm just going to put them here, but I'm gonna reorganize them to place them where they are supposed to be, but it is for sure going to work. So as you can remember, our send email in the mail control, as you can see, the send email is returning a bool, so is equals to await ref.read mail controller provider .notifier .send email. Okay, want to send the email, so the donor email is going to be now this user, so the app user .email. Okay, so the recipient email is going to be user data .email, Okay, the name is going to be user data dot name. Okay, the phone is gonna be user data dot phone, and the recipient blood group is going to be user data dot blood group, like that. So this result is a Boolean variable. So we want to ensure that if it is successful, so if it is successful, now we want to add notifications, and we also want to save the IDs to database. If it is true, then we are gonna do ref.read. Here we are going to pass the Firestore controller provider dot notifier dot save IDs to database. So the recipient ID is user data dot ID to user ID, and the donor ID is going to be app user dot user ID. Again, we now want to send the notifications, and remember, notification, we are going to need a date. Okay, so final date is equals to date time dot now, and then dot to string, like that. So let us now create the notification. So my notification equals to app notification. So the text is going to be requested a blood donation. Date is going to be date. The donor ID is going to be app user dot user ID, and the recipient ID is going to be user data dot user ID, like that. Okay, now since we have notification, we can now add notification to database, and we can do that by using ref.read Firestore controller provider dot notifier dot add notification, recipient ID pass user data dot user ID, donor ID pass app user dot user ID, and app notification pass my notification, like that. So once all that is done, I want to create now a dialog that is going to pop up when all of that process is complete. Okay, so here I have created this show alert dialog method with a context which returns an alert dialog with a title, with an icon, and with actions. So let me run the application and try to press this email button, and then I'm gonna go to the Firestore, and I'm gonna see if what I've done is going to work. So right now we just have the users. Okay, I have run the application, so let me try to press on this and see what happens. Okay, so when I press on email, as you can see, we get this message, donor emailed successfully. Okay, when I click on OK, that disappears. As you can see now, I have received an email directly from the application. So this is my email with all the details of the recipient. So that's their blood group, their email, their phone number, and their name. Okay, so that worked as expected. So one thing that I forgot was to update here, so that when I click on email, we can have a loading indicator here at the bottom, and that is very easy to do, because for that here, the child, we can say if the state dot is loading, I want to show the const circular progress indicator, else I show that. Okay, I want us to work on notifications, and for that I'm going to create a new screen which I'm gonna call notification screen. Okay, so if we go to the Firestore, if I refresh this, as you can see now, we have others. We have now email, and we also have notifications. Let me load these notifications. So our notification screen is going to be a consumer widget. So here we are going to return a scaffold, with an up bar and a title of text that says notifications and a style of app bar of app styles dot title text style, or maybe I can say heading text style. I'm gonna go to the routes. I'm gonna copy yet this one again here, and I'm gonna paste it at the bottom here. So this time this one is for notifications. This one is for notifications. So I'm gonna pass here notifications, and here we are gonna return notification screen. When you make a change like this, especially in the routes, it is advisable that you run the application again so that everything is up to date in the app. Let me navigate to notifications. Right now, since we are here, we can now continue. All right. So remember, we saved notifications. Notifications are saved under a particular user ID, as you can see here in the Firestore. So that's why we need to load the user ID. So final user ID equals to ref.watch. And that is why this is a consumer widget, because we need to access these providers. So we want to get the current user provider .uid. Okay, so we want now to get the notifications async value. Notifications async value equals to ref.watch load notifications provider. This is a family, so we pass the user ID like that. Okay, of course, again now we need to listen in case we get an error. So async value load notification. So this is the provider that we want to listen to, like that. State.show one error context. So here our body, after the app bar, we need to add a body. So the body is going to be a sync value widget. Sync value widget, which is a list of app notification. So the value is the notification async value, and data, you are going to get notifications. So this is going to be a list of notifications. So here we are going to return. So if notifications dot is empty, okay, we want to return a const center widget with child text, no notifications yet. We want to return a list view dot builder. So the item count is notifications dot length. So the item builder, it takes the context and index, and then here we get the notification equals to notifications at the current index. Okay, again, as you remember, in the notification we saved the donor ID. So we are going to access the donor ID that is present in that notification, and then with that we can load the information related to that that donor ID. So final user data async equals to ref.watch load information provider and pass notification.donor ID. And now with that we can return another async value widget. This time this is going to be of type app user. So the value is going to be user data async, and the data is going to be user data. And I want us to return a list style. The title is going to be a text, user data dot name. Subtitle is going to be a text, notification dot text. Leading is going to be user data dot type. So if user data dot type is equals to donor image dot asset assets slash donor dot png, give it a height of 50 and a width of 50. Else we are going to fetch the recipient like that. So you can see it has appeared here. Finally, for the trailing, I want us to format the date. So it's going to be a date, but instead of doing notification.date, which will also work, but that date is very, very wrongly formatted. It's not really properly formatted, and I want us to format this date correctly. And for that, I am going to go to util, and I'm going to create a new file, which I'm gonna call date formatter. And here I'm just going to have a string formatted date, which takes string date, and then date time is equals to date time dot pass, and then pass the date, and then string formatted date is equals to date format, and that is because of the Intel package that we installed earlier. So this is the Intel package. The Intel package is the one that we are using to format the date here. So date format. So here we are going to pass the format that I want is the month, space day, comma, and year. So dot format date time, and then we return the formatted date like that. So let me just close that. So here now, instead of doing it like this, we can just pass formatted date and pass the notification.date inside. So that way, as you can see now, we have a very well formatted date at the side here. Okay, and that is our notifications. So finally, let us now work on how we can retrieve the donors that we have already emailed. Okay, so to do that, I'm going to close all this. So I'm going to go to the screens here of the user management, and I'm going to create a screen that I call users emailed screen. This screen is going to be a consumer widget, which I call user email screen. I'm going to import Riverpod, and I'm also gonna import material.dat file. Okay, so this is going to have to be, we are going to return a scaffold with an app bar. So the title is a text, and the text is emailed users. I'm gonna give it a style of app styles dot title text style, like that. Okay, so let me register this screen in the routes. So I'm gonna go to routes, and we have these emailed users. So I'm gonna copy again these notifications here, but this time it's going to be emailed users. So emailed users, and we are going to return emailed users pin, like that. Again, we can go to the main drawer, and we are going to look at the donors that we have emailed, and again it's pointing out to the emailed users. Ensure that you have that. Remember that again, when we were saving the people that we have emailed, we saved them under a specific user ID. So again, like we did in the notifications, and I'm going to open it here, the notification screen. I'm going to copy this code here, and I'm going to change it, of course. So first of all, we need the user ID. Okay, so we need to get the current user ID, and I'm going to import that. Now here is not going to be notifications as sync value, it's going to be emails, and here is going to be load emailed user IDs. Okay, and that is what I'm going to use here as well. And I'm gonna import this like that. Okay, so here we are loading the emailed user IDs. So we have the app bar. So let me run the application. Okay, I'm going to go to the donors emailed. Let me change this to heading text style. And then here is where now I'm going to load the users that I have emailed. So our body is going to be an async value widget, which is a list of strings. So the value is emailed async value, and the data is ID list. So it's the list of the IDs. So here we are going to return. So if ID list dot is empty, if it's empty, we are going to return a const center widget with child text no one emailed yet. So it's going to be very similar to what we did here in the notifications, very, very similar. Else, we want to have a list view builder. So the item count is going to be ID list dot length, like that. So the item builder has a context and it has the index. So here, first of all, we can get the user ID, which I'm just going to call UID, is equals to the ID list at the current index. Okay, so by this we get one of those IDs. Okay, now we can use now this one of these IDs to now fetch the data of that user, and therefore we are gonna do exactly what we did here. Okay, and actually I'm just gonna copy all of this. Let me just copy that. Let me import that. So here is the UID. Here we pass the UID. Like that. Return async value app user. The user data async that, the user data. So here we can also return a list style. Here what I did is that I returned a list style. The title I set to user data.name, and the subtitle I decided to make it a column, because remember the subtitle takes a widget. It doesn't have to be a text, so it takes a widget, and a column is a widget. The column has two children, the email and also the blood group. Then we do this check again. If it's a donor, we set that. If it's a recipient, we set that. All right. So with that, let me save that and see what we get. As you can see now, these are the people that we have emailed. Okay, we have the donor at the very end. So actually what I can do is that I can take the style to app styles dot normal text style. Okay, let me make it black. Dot copy with colors dot black. Okay, now we have, so these are the people that we have emailed. As you can see, it's quite easy to load them. So if we had emailed many people, all those people will appear here. So yeah, and that is it. So of course I did not do anything about this about share or rate on Google Play. That is something for another day. Anyway, that is all for this app. I hope that you learned something. You can be sure to follow me on my social media platforms and also subscribe to this channel. You can also find me directly on WhatsApp. My WhatsApp number is on the description of this video as well. So that was it. It was an honor to have you here. And yeah, if you have any Flutter project or something that you'd like us to collaborate on, be sure to contact me and I will get back to you as soon as I can. Anyway, take care and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.